Okay, here we go. Look, Amy looks like, whoa, what's going on?
It just said this meeting is being recorded.
This meeting is being recorded. That's right. I'm in another group and we record the meeting. It's a book discussion group. We record the meeting only if someone's not there, just so that they have access to it. But in general, I don't really like to record just casual conversations at all, just because it's inhibiting. Even with the most trustworthy of people, it's inhibiting. So, but these recordings.
I had somebody ask me just today, now, wait, when is your next haiku meeting? I'm like, today. They're like, oh, good. So we know that there'll be a highlight to our week.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Wow.
Well, it's been a big month. There's been some kind of commencement or graduation going on. I understand something's going on. And Amy, before we get into all this, I love every Sunday night getting your essay. I don't know if you call it an essay. What do you call it? Describe it as, but your post.
Thank you.
It's got poetry in it, and it's got the mystics in it, and it's got your experience in it. Lately you've been posting your own pictures of you on the path or whatever. So since at the first of this right here, can you just tell folks again how they can get it? I posted on my Facebook.
Okay, well, that's probably an easy way, but I have to even look at the address. It's at amyhoppock.substack.com. So amyhoppock.substack.com. And it's just a newsletter that people just put their email and it arrives in their inbox on Sunday evenings. And it's such a joy to write. I think about it all week and I love putting it together and love hearing from people. I get texts and messages about what they're thinking. So it's such a blessing.
Yeah. It's written with love. You can tell, when you read it, so that you're, the value you have for it and that you place on it is obvious in reading it. So, thank you for it. That
means a lot.
And you can kind of tell that you're on a journey too. So you're learning. So you're sharing that with us. So anyway, I'm just going to keep talking about it because I think people should at least take a look if they're interested in that kind of thing. So, well, let's talk haiku. What do you say?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. So these are our haikus this month. They'll come out in more formal form later. And we'll look at them in more detail here in a second. But I thought we might start with mine. We might as well start with, tears and end up with commencement or something, some form that way. How does that sound to folks?
That's good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read mine and then let y'all talk about it. So, tears stream down our cheeks, trembling hands clenched in sorrow. Onward we resume. So whoever wants to jump in, jump.
I'll go. The grief of losses big and small have overtaken the whole world over the past 14 months of the pandemic. Grief for experiences lost, school days lost, friendships shifted, and most importantly, lives lost. This haiku seems to be the perfect picture of this moment in time. Grief is heavy in the air. Tears, trembling hands, sorrow permeates the collective psyche. Everyone is grieving something lost over the 14 months. I recently had the opportunity to listen to a Native American woman stands shining, share her understanding of the sacredness of water. She talked about collecting our tears and giving them back to Mother Earth as an offering at one point in her reflection on water. I love the idea that our tears are sacred and should be collected and honored for the pain they represent. It's easy to tire of tears, to see them as obstacles. She invited us to collect our tears and pour them back into the earth. She said Mother Earth would collect them and know what we need. In our pain, tears, sorrows, trembling hands, we all must collect ourselves and move onward. We stand right now, one foot in the grief the pandemic brought and the other foot trembling with anticipation of the onward invitation that is opening. I love the last two words, we resume. There was a pause for grief, for sorrow to crash over us, to be felt in our body. And now there is an invitation to move onward. We resume. Thank you. It was such a beautiful, beautiful haiku.
One of the best ever. It was, yeah, awesome.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, I mean, and I just, what I wrote is very, very different than what you wrote, Amy, but very much appreciating the acknowledgement of, that pain. So, all right. Reality Bites was an emblematic movie of my generation, Gen X. It captured some of the ways a few social forces negatively impacted certain kinds of people, all through an ironic lens that was supposed to enable a kind of distance from the pain. Retail underemployment, crushed career aspirations, and a seemingly ignored AIDS epidemic, all manifested in pretty unhealthy personal and romantic relationships. That was the movie. And that's the way movies go, of course. It's this ironic posture that bothers me. It signals a lack of investment. It signals a distance from reality that is far too easy and far too easily slips into a kind of nihilistic disengagement. It's also one of the reasons that I have worked personally to abandon sarcasm in my communications and in my mindset. I see sarcasm as a second cousin to this ironic sense. They're both born of a desire to escape pain. As I've aged, and especially as I've watched my children mature into the world, I want as few distortions of reality as possible, even if it bites. It's difficult enough without adding unnecessary and superficial layers. Michael's poem reminds us that pain is inescapable, and that no matter how much reality bites, we must confront it and move on regardless. Irony, sarcasm, and disengagement are fool's errands, a kind of wind chasing that Ecclesiastes would appreciate, or the author of Ecclesiastes would appreciate. Better instead to acknowledge the tears and the trembling, acknowledge the clenched hands, and then go on with making the world better somehow. Thank you for your poem.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I thought about whether I should send this out to folks. You know how I send these out. Because, a lot of times they come anonymously. And so, how often do you want to get this kind of message in the mail? And I thought to myself, man, that might be kind of tough, And on the other side, I've got a little saying called Pax Mundi, which means world peace. That's right. Yeah. Which means world peace, or since it's Mundi, I had to look all this up because I know Latin a little bit, but Mundi means world. So the way that's translated is universal peace. So it's not just world peace, but universal peace. So that was helpful to me as I thought about all this. So thank you, Davin. Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate your thoughts. So this haiku was written on February 28th of this year, but the decision to print it for here and as a monthly haiku was made April 23rd. The Capitol insurrection was January 6th. My wife's surgery was March 31st. Add the worry over the pandemic and other life and family challenges, and it's been a challenging few months, a trying few months, an emotionally draining few months. I hardly ever cry, big heaves of crying where I just let go. I remember crying that way when our puppy Dakota died. I'm working my way towards equanimity, as the Buddhists refer to it, but that equanimity includes great love. Perhaps more than ever, as we strip superficiality from us and nurture depth of love, care and meaningfulness in its place. The picture was taken on a hike with my friend Vince on July 27th, 2019 on the Boise National Forest Red Mountain Trail. If you look to the bottom right, you can see the path. It's a path that leads towards a beautiful horizon. A burned tree to the right from a forest fire a few years ago, and fully alive trees to the left. We walk between life and death, health and sickness, danger and opportunities, but each step on the path can be beautiful if we pay attention, and the journey can always be toward wonder and awe.
Mm. Just feels like sacred ground.
And I think your interpretation, your high bun, we've got to do Amy's next, I think, because your ending thought there fits, I think, so well with Amy's poem.
Amazing how these things fit together, isn't it?
I thought there was a whole theme through all of them. Like as I was writing, it kind of all came together. I was like, gosh, every week, every month, it seems like there's an interesting flow.
So we're going to talk about Hildegard's invitation, but let me show the haiku so Amy can read it for us. So here's the Pax Mundi for those who couldn't see it.
I had to look that up this morning. I was like, wait, what does that mean?
I don't know where I picked it up, but on the envelopes for this, I put it on the envelope so you can see the envelope. That's a picture of the envelope. Just to be a little counterpoint. So here's Hildegard's invitation and Amy.
All right, Hildegard's invitation. The world is singing. Pause, listen, awaken to the symphony here. And it was, I guess we can read the next one. It was inspired by this quote from the book Hildegard of Bingen, A Saint for Our Times by Matthew Fox. And in the quote that inspired this, it says, Mary Oliver gives us 3 lessons for living. They are 1, pay attention, 2, be astonished, 3, share your astonishment. Hildegard advises us, glance at the sun, see the moon and the stars, gaze at the beauty of earth's greenings. Now, think, what delight God gives to humankind with all these things. Who gives us all these shining, wonderful gifts, if not God? So.
Wow. Okay.
You want to go first, Michael?
Sure. After reading Amy's haiku, I closed my eyes and listened. Each morning I practice centering prayer, and my sacred word for years now has been listen. So I try to breathe in listening in its broadest definition, to be fully attentive to all that's around me, to let go of what I'm thinking about what's around me, and instead to experience what's all around me. But I'd never thought of the world singing, of the sounds of the earth and its occupants singing. Symphonies have arcs. I'm no expert on symphonic music, but there can be dissonance, slow mixed with fast, soft mixed with loud, a recurring melody. And so it seems to me is the symphony of the world, a marvelous metaphor. It's pretty hard to become immersed in a symphony, whether live at the concert hall or in our house, if we are making noise, if we are rustling about, and especially if that rustling about is inside our mind. To experience, Amy says, pause, stop, be, listen, break open anything between you and the source, and awaken, experience, feel, see. The tracks our world is laying down all the time. I closed my eyes and the world crooned.
It's beautiful.
I love that metaphor when I thought crooned. Oh wow. Come on, Frank. Yeah.
I like the idea. I like the idea of the world laying down tracks. I like that a lot.
I love that phrase. I love that.
This was fun. This was great. This was great, Amy. The whole piece, both sides.
Yeah.
And I love Hildegard. And anyway, I'm jumping into Davin's time. Go ahead.
I wonder how long the phrase laying down tracks will not be an anachronism.
Oh.
You know? Go ahead.
As long as the Tracks for My Tears is a song, you know, so
There you go.
we've got some symbiosis here between my tears and Tracks of Tears and, you know, all that going on here.
That's right.
Anyway, I can make all sorts of connections. Let's just keep talking.
When Allie, my wife, was pregnant with our twin boys, her first pregnancy, I started seeing pregnant women everywhere. I was at an age when many of my peers at a similar stage of life were also starting families. So I wasn't wrong. I was seeing probably more than my fair share of pregnant women. But I wasn't completely right either. I'm self-reflective enough to occasionally catch my own selective attention and my own confirmation bias. And I saw those things at work here as well. I was seeing more pregnant women primarily because I was paying attention. It's such a simple principle and so powerful too. Social scientists guard against this kind of bias in the interest of generating more objective data, but it cuts the other way too. There are also benefits for living day to day. Things are happening around us all the time, most of which we don't notice, most of which we can't notice. It's simply physically, emotionally, and mentally impossible to notice and absorb everything. Instead, we notice and internalize the things we value and the things we care about. It's true that certain obdurate traits of reality are inescapable, regardless of our attention. Death and taxes, the cliche tells us. Gravity also will always work, no matter how much we pay attention to it. No matter our value system, these phenomena change our lives for better or worse. It's equally true, though, that a huge portion of our reality is shaped and generated through our value system, through the things we care about. What we see and experience are the things we attend, the things we care to attend. The owl represents wisdom because it pays attention, I think. It is always patiently, carefully, quietly attending to its environment. The beauty and harmony of the world is undeniable and inescapable. The most important variable, if you're not seeing that, is your attention. Are you paying attention to the beautiful things? That's the end.
I love it.
I do too.
Wow.
I love anybody who can use the word obdurate in an essay.
It's one of my favorite words.
I need to look it up.
It never goes away.
That's so funny. Well, I feel like mine is a good it brings together both of yours. So the symphony begins with horns, strings, and woodwinds warming up. It's a cacophony of sounds, and yet suddenly the intentional movement of the director's hands upward, they become one beautiful experience. The symphony only becomes a symphony in the pause when the players listen and awaken to the possibilities outside of their own abilities. I love to take a morning or mid-afternoon walk along a trail and creek in my neighborhood. This spring, I started to pay attention to the trees, the birds, the stream, the breeze, and discovered a symphony in my backyard. The highlight of these walks was coming to know the owls, who began their lives in the trees along the trail. It started with noticing two larger owls that always seemed to be perched in one of three trees in a particular section of the path. Owls are often hidden in plain sight. A few weeks later, I noticed in the hollow of a high dead tree the eyes of a baby owl watching me. Daily for weeks, I would go see the baby. Gradually, I realized that there were two babies, twins. My 10-year-old Harry Potter fan daughter told me to call them Head and Wig. When I started watching the owls, there were no leaves on the trees, the ground was beginning to thaw, and spring seemed just a mirage. Watching the owls was an invitation to watch the trees dance through spring into their summer leaves. The path was hard and edged with tired brown grass. The path that was hard and edged with tired brown grass is now lush and overrun with fresh green grass. The world is singing. The owls were there. It was only when I paused and listened and made the effort to stay awake that I was invited into the symphony that was unfolding on my daily walks. And then I added this morning. This morning, after weeks of absences, I thought the owls had left. I was surprised by an owl flying close, not scary close, but close over my head on the other side of the creek from where I'd seen the owls every other time. I stopped, paused, listened, slowly turned, and found head or wig sitting on the branch I had just walked under. I think they flew over my head to let me know, here we are. I paused, greeted them, moved my hands to prayer position, bowed, and said, I bid you peace.
That's awesome.
I should say this is not my owl, but it was pretty close. I couldn't ever get a good picture of my owls. So.
Right. Head and wig.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts that I had as I was responding to your poem, Amy, was, yeah, the owl symbolizes wisdom, but that might be all the further I want to take the parallel to what they want to do.
Yeah, right.
They're pretty deadly creatures.
Pretty aggressive, yeah.
They do have some of the best eyes in the business, right? They can see. So
they just personify that attention. They're so aware.
And they can be totally hidden. Like, it's so amazing. Sometimes you have to really look hard and they can be just sitting there, but just they blend in so well. So anyway, love the owls.
Yeah, I think nature, if we observe nature like you are doing, but if we observe it, nature has to be attentive or they'll die, or they'll not survive. For us, we can think about, Brahms' sixth. Well, I don't know if Brahms has a sixth. While we're walking along, and if we don't pay attention, it's unlikely that some owl's going to swoop in and pick us up. Mm-hmm. But there's some ducklings that do, and so there's a lot going on. That's really great. Okay, let's move on. Mm-hmm. Shall we commence? Let me share our next one. Thank you, Amy. That was great. And love Mary Oliver and Hildegard and Matthew Fox. You put those things together and you've got a winning hand.
Yeah.
Can't lose with that combination.
I know, right?
Davin's haiku.
All right, published with permission of my daughter. So that is her. That is her. And I can't promise that I won't cry in the process of all this. So you'll just have to deal with that pain.
Bring it. That's all right. It's good.
Days are long, years are fast. Commencement, I am not ready, but she is. Mm.
Do you want me to go?
Sure.
All right.
Before we do, what a great picture.
I love that picture.
Yeah.
You look so happy.
And I apologize for the kind of sappiness of it, but it's what was speaking.
I love sappy. I'm a sappy guy.
It's good. The economy of time is summed up in this haiku. Days can be so long, never ending, with a crying baby, whining toddler, or pouting teen. And yet, in what seems like the blink of an eye, they are 5, 10, 13, or graduating from high school. Ready is an interesting word. It means fully prepared. It struck me as I looked up the meaning of the word ready, that to be fully prepared means that actions have been taken. A creation process has happened. Preparation rarely occurs alone. Preparation comes from working with other people, learning from others, translating the best of what is known and making it useful in an individual life. So the young woman, Davin's daughter, Ready to face the world didn't become prepared on her own. Her parents, teachers, mentors, and community played a role in her commencement. I wonder too if the same community will play a part in the readiness needed to let her go, to begin the new adventures outside of the nest. Out of curiosity, I looked up commencement. Commencement means to start something new. I often think of commencement as the ending, but it's the beginning, new adventures, new learning. Commencement isn't the end, it's the start. It's the launching.
Mhm.
I love the way you bring in the definitions.
I can't help it. It's so
Love it.
interesting though.
It is. Yeah, words are just fascinating.
Out of the nest. Nice connection there.
Right?
Yeah, very good.
Tears, it all plays together.
Okay. So again, great photo. Exuberance. I mean, just looks like exuberance to me. That's a word I would use. This seems so poignant. There's loss involved, deep loss, perhaps of a particular relationship with unique qualities of love and experience between one person and another, a father and a daughter. But it's a loss of a particular phase, of a particular type of relationship, not of the relationship. She is ready. The author is not ready for her to be ready, but she is. The butterfly has emerged, the bulb has blossomed, the daughter wears the graduation cap. It's time to fly, to step forward, and to share that resplendence with the world, Dad. There is no one I know who loves and cares for his children more than Davin. I've observed it now for years in what he pays attention to and how he talks so fondly about them, so proudly, in what he makes priorities, and in how he supports and guides and looks out for them. You're ready too, Pop, even if you don't think you are. Different, but wonderful times are a-coming.
That's the voice of wisdom there.
I don't know how you can follow that. I'm about to cry.
Thank you both. All right. Our daughter, Isla, graduated from high school last night. So I finished writing this morning. The picture is from a parade of graduates through our city, Oakwood, Ohio, that happens sometime prior to the actual commencement ceremony. I'm not sure how long Oakwood has had this parade, but it's a nice tradition that in some places began as a way to have a socially distanced graduation celebration in response to the pandemic. I don't know if that's the history here. Regardless, for a somewhat sentimental father of three and soon to be empty nester, the numerous events and activities and busyness leading up to the actual graduation ceremony provide a gentle on-ramp to the powerful emotions of this moment. A few important facts frame this situation. Isla has grown into a truly remarkable human being. 1. 2, she deserves a happy and celebratory transition out of high school. 3, she doesn't deserve to be saddled by my emotional baggage during such a wonderful time. 4, she is ready for her next steps in life. And 5, I am not. I've learned that I work better when I can be slow and deliberate, especially when my emotions are involved. So I'm taking that approach here. Don't panic. She's fine. I'm fine. Things are as they should be. There is more here than can be addressed, attended to, and thoughtfully considered in a moment, in a day, in a week, or a year. How I make meaning of the profound joy and the deep sadness of this transition will change and will grow over time. It'll work on me. It'll work into me, and will ultimately make all of us better as a result. In the meantime, I love her and I want the best for her. And I'll keep working to make sure she experiences that love in a positive way. That's the end. Thank you for indulging the sappiness.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Sappiness are like cliches. Cliches are cliches because they have, you get sick of them, but they're cliches because they're meaningful. Sappiness is, it's sappy, but it's because it's so intimately important. So
yeah, there's just so much in these moments, and I almost didn't cry.
Oh, what a wonderful haiku and reading and essays.
So something that came across my mind a minute ago, there might be some folks who watch this who don't maybe know exactly what we do. So it might make sense to kind of maybe review the process real quick.
Sure. Please.
So every month, the three of us respectively write a haiku poem, and we share it with each other. And we then we respond with what's called haibun, which is our interpretation, reflections, thoughts on a haiku poem. So we come together here, usually at the end of every month, and share with each other our poems and our interpretations and thoughts on those poems. And we've been doing it for 2 years now. We've been recording it for 1 year. And each month it just kind of gets better and better, I think.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Great summary.
Yep. And it's continuously fun. It's continuously, we see connections every time. It's amazing. It's our friend Kelly Anderson helped us think through this process when we first got started. She was with us when we first started. And she helped us think about laying out things where we would have, this process allows us to have multi-perspectivity, so we can look at things in different ways in this way. And so it's not just me talking about me, but it's everybody, and just seeing how that, that meaning making works. And it's been great. It's been really great. And it's particularly, I've known Davin for quite a while, but it's been really valuable getting to know Amy and her journey and those kinds of things. So we continue on.
Onward.
Resume.
What Latin do we know? Cavia emptor. No, that's not what we want to say. We want to say non sequitur. No, we don't want to say that. We want to say hasta la vista, baby. Oh, that's a different language. See y'all.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.